Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Chesapeake Foodshed Network's Coffee Talk series, Learning and Connecting for Action. My name is Yona Sipos, and I direct the program development for the Chesapeake Foodshed Network, which is coordinated by Local Concepts, a consulting firm providing the development and backbone support for the CFN, or the Chesapeake Foodshed Network. I'm joined today by two other Local Concepts team members, Christy Gabbard, who coordinates the network at large, and Hannah Gross, who is the Network Outreach Coordinator. Before jumping into our coffee talk today, I will provide a very brief overview of the CFN. The Chesapeake Foodshed Network is a group of organizations, businesses, funders, agencies, and other change agents working across the Chesapeake watershed to build a stronger and more resilient food system. We are a relatively new initiative, almost 2 years in the making, and the leadership group that spurred the network's development did so because they recognized that a great deal of extraordinary work was being done to advance our regional food system, but there was no entity intentionally trying to build connections, trust, and relationships among those out there doing the work. The mission of the CFN, therefore, is to catalyze connections and collaborations that help build a sustainable, resilient, inclusive, and equitable regional food system in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. We believe that by catalyzing connections and collaborations, we are stronger together, such that we can help to accelerate change in and across our food system. We encourage conversation and connection in various ways, including via social media. Please note the usernames and hashtags on the slide footers. We would love to see your tweets. So here is a picture of our network building blocks. The foundation of our network is all about building connections, sharing information and knowledge, building relationships and trust, with the thought that as we know one another better, we might over time see opportunities to align and to work collectively toward action. We invite anyone who supports our vision of a sustainable, resilient, inclusive, and equitable regional food system to participate in the Chesapeake Foodshed Network. The Coffee Talks are a platform that the network developed to help catalyze connections around specific food system topics. We partner with resource experts who provide quick learning opportunities through webinar presentations. And then during the webinar and in the follow-up materials, we identify ways for people to continue to engage and dig in deeper around that particular topic. Today's Coffee Talk is an opportunity for all of us to learn more about regional farm-to-institution impacts and approaches to equity. We are so delighted that at last count, almost 200 people across the U.S. and perhaps even internationally had registered for this Coffee Talk. We also want to acknowledge that funding for the Chesapeake Foodshed Network and for our Coffee Talks comes from Town Creek Foundation. So today's Coffee Talk is, as mentioned, farm to institution, focus on equity and impact. The presenters today include Jillian Dy and Margaret Smith from the Common Market in Philadelphia, as well as Helen Nadel and Nicole Sugerman from Greener Pastures. The presenters will be introduced further in just a moment, but first I'll note just a few housekeeping items. If you have questions or comments during the webinar, we invite you to type them into the questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel. Hannah will be collecting your questions and will share them with our presenters following their presentation. Within a week, we will be sharing a recording of the presentation as well as any additional questions and answers that we didn't get to, and a post-webinar survey, which we would be very grateful if you would fill in with your feedback and insights. So with that, I'll just share some brief bios, and then we'll be ready to get to the presentation. So Jillian Dy is a former vegetable farmer and a good food advocate working to build healthy communities through good food initiatives. Excuse me. As Deputy Director for the Common Market Mid-Atlantic, she collaborates with public and private sector partners to promote sustainable agriculture and help institutions incorporate local food programs into their food service operations. She also leads marketing and communication efforts for the Common Market's regional food hubs. At the Common Market, Margaret Smith connects mid-Atlantic institutions, such as schools and universities, to farm fresh local food. She coordinates Common Market's Food Access Fund, an initiative to expand food access to community organizations directly serving low-income people. Smith holds a master's degree in soil science and loves to cook. Helen Nadel is the Education Director for Greener Partners. A lifelong cook, Helen has a passion for farms, farmers markets, and the way fresh food can transform lives. She brings that energy to Greener Partners, cultivating curiosity about how plants grow, as well as cooking and eating in healthier, more sustainable ways. Nicole Sugerman has been growing food in community-based settings for over 10 years. As the co-manager at Fieldhouse Farm, she spearheads programming for Fieldhouse West senior residents, as well as co-manages the production farm, supporting senior gardeners in the on-site community garden and manages distribution. We are so grateful that our presenters are with us today and are bringing this wealth of experience. I will now just turn this over to Jillian to get us started and to share more about this important issue. Thank you so much. Jillian, over to you.
Thanks, Yona. The Common Market is a mission-driven distributor of sustainable farm foods. We connect institutions and the communities they serve by delivering local food for the common good. Since 2008, we've been the Mid-Atlantic's trusted source for local food, and in April of 2016, we launched the Common Market Georgia to expand our mission connecting rural and urban communities through good food. We believe that all people deserve access to good food and that farmers deserve to be paid fairly. By rebuilding regional food systems infrastructure, we create a market for sustainable farm products while getting these foods to underserved communities. In the Mid-Atlantic, we operate out of our North Philadelphia warehouse. We share our facility with several partners through the Philly Good Food Lab, which is an incubator for local food entrepreneurs. Over the past 3 years, we've made several infrastructure improvements to increase our capacity, including a new 25,000 cubic foot freezer space, hydraulic lift gates, cart and flow racking, and remote monitoring temperature control. Our facility is audited annually, and our food safety manual has met or surpassed SQF, an internationally benchmarked food safety standard. We have a fleet of 6 refrigerated trucks on the road 6 days a week, picking up food from our farms and aggregation points and delivering to our customers as far north as Princeton, New Jersey, and as far south as Washington, D.C. We currently make deliveries in Georgia 2 days a week, and altogether we have a team of 30 employees. We purchase from over 75 farms throughout the Mid-Atlantic. For our Georgia hub, we work with over 20 farms. All of our farmers are certified in good agricultural practices, which exceeds the industry standard for food safety. From a few acres of raspberries to over 1,000 acres of fruit trees, our producers are diverse. Some larger farms help us ensure consistency and affordability in our product line, and we also offer technical assistance to small and beginning farms to scale their capacity. Pictured here is Sunny Harvest Produce in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Through grant funding, we helped them purchase a hydro cooler to extend the broccoli season. Many of the farms we partner with are family-owned and operated and have been farming for generations. They participate in the daily operations, they lease or own their land, and get a good portion of their livelihood from farming. This is John Zimmerman and his sons in the milking parlor at Kirchenberg Dairy. John's goat cheese is sold to over 50 retailers, restaurants, and institutions throughout the Mid-Atlantic. From fresh seasonal produce to antibiotic-free turkey, chicken, and beef, to eggs, dairy, tofu, and value-added items, we have nearly 300 unique sustainable farm products. And although our farms are diverse, they are all share our commitment to sustainability. We define sustainability in terms of economic viability and environmental and social impact. Our products are grown and processed with integrity. This means reduced or eliminated pesticide use, humane treatment of livestock, fair labor conditions for farm workers, and conservation practices that build soil and protect waterways. A socially just food system builds community and the networks between growers, distributors, purchasers, and consumers. Pictured here is Bill, who's one of the fishermen of the Wide Net Project. Based in Silver Spring, Maryland, they are reducing the invasive catfish population in the Chesapeake Bay while offering a wild-caught product for food service. We partner with institutions that share our commitment to our most vulnerable communities. Institutions are already built into the fabric of the community, serving those who work, go to school, and eat within their walls. Our outreach team collaborates daily with chefs, food service directors, dietitians, and wellness professionals. Together, we find ways to incorporate more local, sustainable foods into their food service, product offerings, or workplace wellness programs, and we help them engage their customers through educational POS materials. We promote transparency in the food system by identifying the source of every product we carry, so our customers and their customers know exactly how the food is grown and where it's coming from. We operate a workplace wellness program called the Common Market Farm Share. For 11 months of the year, employees can pick up fresh local foods right at work. Each location has a site host, a volunteer invested in employee health and wellness, who coordinates the setup and distribution. We send out product lists, recipes, and storage tips with each bi-weekly delivery, and our participants have reported cooking more frequently, purchasing more local produce overall, and trying new vegetables because of the program. Institutional procurement is one way to improve food access, but we also partner directly with community-based organizations. Through matching funds from GSK and stakeholder input, we developed the Common Market Food Access Fund, which enables us to sell at cost to groups led by and serving low-income people. Pictured here is the youth-led farm stand operated by Eastern Park Revitalization Alliance. The farm stand model integrates nutrition and culinary education, urban agricultural experience, and increased affordability of healthy foods. We've expanded our program to 7 distinct mission-driven organizations who are committed to building health and wealth in their communities. In partnership with Get Healthy Philly, the Common Market is providing technical assistance and resources to hospitals throughout Philadelphia through Good Food, Healthy Hospitals, a grant from the Centers for Disease Control. We are working to create a culture of health through hospital food by changing product choice, placement, and promotion. The initiative is based on the City of Philadelphia's nutrition standards. This month, we will be recognizing 6 hospitals at City Hall for their achievements in patient meals, catering, purchased foods, and cafeteria meals. Pictured here is Chinwe Onyekere at the Lankenau Medical Center Urban Farm, which is operated by Greener Partners. At the Common Market, we envision a food system where sustainable, small, and mid-scale farmers have access to the institutional marketplace. Since 2008, we have delivered over $10 million of local farm food. As a nonprofit, we will continue to serve the Mid-Atlantic and Georgia as we expand our vision by creating a national network of regional food hubs. Through the dedication of our passionate team, we work every day to reconnect rural and urban communities to promote the health and wealth of all people.
Thank you, Jillian. So we're going to shift gears now. This is Margaret at the Common Market. I wanted to dig into why and how we work with institutions to expand our impact. The United States has significant health disparities, particularly by race and socioeconomic status. We believe that an equitable food system means that everyone should have access to high-quality, nutritious foods for health. So the Common Market wanted to figure out how to make the greatest impact possible to really approach an inequitable food system from system levels. And we realized that the best place to reach people who needed good food the most was through the institutions that serve them in our communities. The schools, hospitals, elder care facilities, universities. We call them anchor institutions because they are rooted in place. They can't get up and move somewhere else. And these anchor institutions employ, heal, educate, and feed millions in our communities every single day. So let's take a look at what these relationships with institutions look like, why they're important, and how they are built and maintained. So while some institutions coordinate their own food service and are what we call self-operated, the vast majority of institutions hire food service management companies to take care of all the kitchen staffing, food purchasing, and meal preparation, such as Bon Appetit, Chartwell's, Morrison's, Sodexo, Linton's, Aramark, and there are many, many more. Thus, in order to partner with institutions to scale our impact, it's really critical to understand how these companies operate. Keep in mind that these companies are hired by institutions through a bidding process and enter into a contract. They are there to serve their client, the institution. They are there to serve you, the institution, and you can ask for local sustainable foods. Food service management companies are competing with each other, and they're all trying to figure out local sourcing. Food hubs need to know that your food is in demand and valued by food service management companies. So why do we work with food service management companies? They spend billions of dollars annually on food. This represents an enormous opportunity to leverage institutional purchasing power to support a more equitable food system, one where high quality, nutritious foods are accessible to all served by these anchor institutions. Now that we've talked about what food service management companies are and why we found it to be an important strategy for scaling our impact, let's take a look at how we work with them with the goal of increasing equitable access to local foods. So at the Common Market, we've found that food safety protocols and insurance are absolutely critical for getting in the door in the first place with food service management companies. And we've developed systems and worked with our local farms to ensure a safe, healthy food supply that food service can count on. People power is so important to build meaningful relationships with community-based organizations to determine the best way to meet the needs of communities, to build relationships with farmers, to plan and coordinate the supply, and to build relationships with chefs and purchasing managers in order to offer high-quality customer service. Our physical infrastructure enables us to purchase, aggregate, and distribute products from multiple farms. So this infrastructure includes our fleet of trucks that Jillian mentioned, the warehouse space, cooling and freezing facilities, absolutely necessary for us to partner with these companies. And finally, aggregating from multiple farms and the scale of our operations has enabled us to find price points that are fair for farmers, financially sustainable for our operations, and competitive. We know that affordability is key to building an equitable food system in our region. Now, many institutions already have some sort of direct relationship with a local grower, but in order to increase impact, it's necessary to understand what the approval process looks like with food service management companies. Most of these large multinational companies have established relationships with food vendors and support an inequitable food system of purchasing that favors large industrialized agriculture, standardized seasonless products, and unsustainable growing practices. Identifying food service management companies at local institutions that have a values alignment with our mission and are interested in or maybe already demonstrating a commitment to local purchasing are an obvious place to start. Institutions with self-operated food service are often a good fit for partnering with mission-driven food hubs, we've found. So these approval processes for getting in the door with these companies vary widely and are not transparent. Finding an advocate within the institution itself is helpful, but we found that finding a champion within the food service is even better as they are attuned to the actual purchasing, receiving, and preparing of the food entering these institutions. And really communicating with these champions to connect them to this movement creates real changes in purchasing. The needs of each institution and the culture of each food service management company is different, and it's important to meet them where they are. Some are able to do periodic events with local healthy foods, and some will be ready to incorporate local foods regularly into their dining plan, but treat it as steps to progress and inspire them to do more as the relationship builds and trust is formed. You can build that trust with food service and institutions by promoting interactions with farmers and community members actually benefiting from the increased quality and nutrition of fresh food. So now let's take a look at specific examples, a specific example of a partnership with a food service management company and how scaling for equity results in improvements at the institution and farm level. Local food purchasing programs, such as the one I'll use as an example today, the Farm to Fork program of the Compass Group Food Service Management Company, Bon Appetit, is an internal initiative to incentivize purchasing of local sustainable foods at the institutional level. It sets standards and measures and acts as a structured approach to prioritizing geographic preference and other values in purchasing. Farm to Fork requires Bon Appetit chefs to buy at least 20% of their ingredients from small farmers, ranchers, fishermen, and food producers within 150 miles of their kitchens. So we found that this type of initiative can create a shared understanding of the product qualities, growing practices, and purpose along the value chain. So though Farm to Fork is but one initiative that demonstrates driving change all the way through the local supply chain, I wanted to share one specific story connected to a farm that really highlights this change. One of our biggest success stories from the past year was with our local egg producer. Chefs interested in procuring locally through the Farm to Fork program voiced their preference for humanely raised poultry and laying hens. This allowed us to open a dialogue with our producer, Isaac Garman of Sandy Ridge Farm in Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania, to encourage them to get the third-party certified humane designation. Demonstrating the market that would open up as a result of gaining the certification to Isaac and building trusting relationships made this a huge success. And we've had a positive relationship with Isaac for several years, selling his cage-free eggs to many major wholesale accounts. And over the course of this relationship, his eggs have become one of our top 5 products. And we've become his largest customer. Because of the demand we were able to create for his local eggs, as well as his commitment to humane and sustainable production, Isaac was able to make major changes to his farm operations, including purchasing new equipment and using more land to become a certified humane egg producer. This is a great accomplishment, as humane certification requires more complex operations and requires more resources to maintain. Since becoming certified, we've seen an increase in wholesale egg purchases by over $54,000 with new and existing wholesale customers. This is an example of how partnerships with food service management companies can create change and open up access to humane, local, and sustainable food for the populations generally served by public institutions. Our focus on anchor institutions like schools and hospitals enables us to implement a mission focused on both sides of the value chain. Healthy food gets to people who often don't have access to it while operating on a scale that benefits farmers. And so with that, I think that we will turn it over to Greener Partners, and we look forward to hearing more of your questions.
Well, this is Helen Nadel, and I wanted to say thank you so much to the Chesapeake Foodshed Network and to our friends and colleagues at Common Market who are having a very large impact in our region. I want to share a little bit about Greener Partners before turning it over to my colleague Nicole, who's going to talk more specifically about our farm in North Philadelphia. Greener Partners connects communities through farms, food, and education. Incorporated as a nonprofit in 2008 and working in the 5-county Philadelphia region, we increase access to and education about fresh food as a way of addressing health disparities. Greener Partners farms on 3 pieces of land. One is a large CSA farm that we lease in suburban Collegeville. And then we have 2 small farms on land that partner institutions. And I'm sorry, Yona, would you please move to the next slide? Thank you. So we're farming on 2 small farms that partner institutions are providing in kind. One is in North Philadelphia, and one is on the border of West Philadelphia and the main line. Each of these working farms is producing food and also serving as the platform for education. We also have 2 mobile farms called the Farm Explorer trucks that travel to schools and community groups for mostly educational purposes. I'll just also mention that Greener Partners farms organically and sustainably, but we do not have organic certification. Okay, and can you move to the next slide, please? So at Greener Partners, we use access to fresh food as a way to improve health and impact health disparity. We also support people who are growing their own food as another way of increasing sources of fresh, healthy food. Last year, we distributed over 8,000 pounds of free food to senior living communities, to families in school settings, and to food pantries. This year, we're expecting that number to rise pretty dramatically due to some new community programs to increase yields on our farms, and also it's the first season of our new hospital farm. Next slide. This slide just outlines a little bit of the impact of our farm to school programming. I'll just mention that we focus on food literacy from seed to stomach, and over 70% of the schools that we work with are eligible for free and reduced lunch. Okay, next slide, please. By combining increased access to fresh food and education about growing and cooking simple recipes, there's a real impact on people's willingness to try and therefore to consume fresh food. And that is kind of at the heart of what we're doing at Greener Partners. Next slide. So I want to look a little bit in more detail about some of our farms and programs. First, Longview Farm, I'll mention that's our large CSA farm in suburban Collegeville. There's a lot of details there about what we're doing on the farm. I wanted to mention that in any given year, between 5 and 10% of our CSA membership receives that subsidized CSA. We also do a lot of cooking demonstrations and education programs, especially for senior centers and other nonprofits who are receiving subsidized shares. One of the most comprehensive examples of this type of work is our project in Norristown. Next slide. So Norristown is a community very close to Longview Farm. It's about 10, 12 miles away. It's predominantly low income and Spanish speaking. You can see some of the details of the school-based program there. We have delivered 4,500 pounds of food so far in the first 13 weeks of the program to families. And in addition to the school-based free distribution program, staff is also doing training and technical assistance to several community groups who have gardens. So nonprofits, the largest food pantry in the city, also our staff is working with to increase their own ability to produce food on site. Next slide. This is just, this is a little bit more about our farm to school programs. There's some to see, just sort of highlighting, as you can see from those pictures, sort of fun, hands-on work with kids, a lot of tasting and trying of food. You can kind of imagine that a young person who has the opportunity to pull a carrot right out of the ground and then kind of look at it, look at the root system, figure out what the root system is for, and then be able to try it right there and just make a healthy recipe right there, is really interested in not just growing, but also in cooking and eating the food. Okay, next slide. So I want to focus now on Greener Partners, 2 farms at 2 partner institutions. The first one, which Jillian alluded to earlier, is at Lankenau Medical Center. It's called the Beaver Wellness Farm. And this is our very first season in this year. We're excited about what we've been able to do so far. All the food that's raised at that site is donated for use in the hospital. So this is not a situation where we're using the food directly in the cafeteria. Instead, we're bringing the food directly into a lot of the practices. So for example, 3 times a week, OBGYN and primary care patients are greeted by a variety of fresh, bountiful produce that's just been harvested, as well as some health educators who talk to them a little bit about the food, some recipes, storage tips, and learns from them what they plan to do with it. We have found that this is really sparking some great conversations between healthcare providers and patients. We also are providing that food at the on-site farmers markets, where the food from the farm is distributed for free through the Philly Food Bucks program. We also are doing weekly herb classes with cardiac patients and training medical staff at various different levels on talking about fresh food and healthy eating with their patients in a way that's very hands-on and authentic. I'll just also mention that so far to date, we have 2,300 pounds of food that is distributed with fall and winter growing still to come. And finally, I want to just, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole in just a moment, my colleague, Nicole, to talk in more detail about Fieldhouse Farm. Can we have the next slide, please? And that is our farm in North Philadelphia. It's the second farm that's directly at an institution where that land is provided in kind for us to farm for that specific community. It's located at Fieldhouse West, which is an independent living facility for seniors run by our partner, the Friends Rehabilitation Project. We have 2 Greener Partners staff who are managing that half-acre space, as well as leading programs for teens and seniors and supporting a very vibrant, long-time community garden on site. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nicole.
Thanks so much, Helen, and thanks to Common Market for that wonderful introduction. If I could have the next slide, please. I just wanted to talk a little bit about a specific example of a farm at an institution. And before I started that, I wanted to say a little bit about why farm at an institution. Margaret talked about earlier really creating the environment where you're demonstrating demand to your food service provider. And I think the work that we do at Greener Partners and the work that a farm on site can do to both advocate for local food, demonstrate institutional commitment, and to educate your constituency as to why local food is important can really go hand in hand in a really great way with a local food buying, like a local food sourcing contract with an organization like Common Market. So a little bit about Fieldhouse in context. We are a half-acre farm at a low-income senior center in North Philadelphia. There's a 30% neighborhood poverty rate. 100% of the people who live at Fieldhouse are low income, and the neighborhood is poorly served by grocery stores. So we started a farm at the at Greener Partner at Fieldhouse to give people an opportunity to access food right in their neighborhood and directly at the senior center. Next slide, please. The Fieldhouse had an existing community garden since the 80s on site, and that kind of demonstrated the commitment to local food, and it really demonstrated the interest in the community for local food. A lot of the seniors who live at Fieldhouse grew up in the South, and a lot of people have really strong connections to growing food. And this was both demonstrated through the community garden, and it kind of paved the way for the future work around food in the building. FRP started Fieldhouse Farm in 2009, and they ran the farm in-house until 2013, when a staff member who worked for both organizations kind of brokered the connection between the two organizations and saw an opportunity really for joint benefit. So Greener Partners gets access to land, and we get to use the land for free. FRP gets access to programming and food for residents, and they get access to the things for free. And GP is responsible for fundraising for 1.5 staff positions to support the project, and FRP pays for maintenance of the site, and they pay for a lot of the farm supplies. At the site, we've really focused on education, and we focus on culturally appropriate food. So we really ask the residents of Fieldhouse, as well as the surrounding community, what they want to see on the site, both education-wise and what kind of crops they would like us to grow for them and with them. Next slide, please. We focus largely on youth programming, and we see this as both a youth development model to create leaders for both food access and advocacy in their communities, and to create leadership skills that can be used in any direction the youth decide to go through later in their life. So we have a Soul Food Youth Development Program every summer. This summer we worked with 10 youth and 1 youth leader, and we are in the process of hiring 4 of these leaders from the summer into part-time workers during the school year, and they will go on to lead programming for their fellow teens. We find this to be a strong model because it both creates leadership and it creates buy-in with the youth. So the youth are a lot of times more likely to listen to something coming from one of their peers than they are listening to an adult. So if the peers are saying, this is cool, this is fun, we like healthy food, we find it to be very convincing for other youth. We work with another school, Girard College, in the area, and we have youth from our program at Fieldhouse Farm who then mentor their peers at Girard College. We also host field trips and volunteer opportunities from a wide variety of different organizations and ages. And lastly, we really try to focus on intergenerational work between the seniors at Fieldhouse and the youth that we host through our programs. Both the youth and the seniors really enjoy this work. It's really meaningful, and it creates really strong role models for the teens, as well as creating opportunities for mentorship for the seniors. Next slide, please. As far as senior programming, as well as offering vegetables for free to the seniors, we also support them in their longstanding community garden, as mentioned before. We host festivals and events, and we host monthly workshops where we talk about different issues in both food and sustainability, both as the seniors request, and sometimes they're co-led by senior residents in the building. We also offer samples of vegetables that seniors may not be familiar with or that they may want to experience cooked in different ways. Next slide, please. We also host a lot of, we host corporate groups, we host volunteers of all different backgrounds and from a lot of different organizations at the farm. Next slide. So we distribute our food in a variety of different ways. We give away the food free to seniors. This is kind of the backbone of our food distribution strategy. We just put it out in the community room at the center, as you can see in the top picture, and seniors can take it back to their apartments and kind of cook it how they see fit. We also sell at a weekly farmers market. This is like both an entrepreneurship opportunity for our teens to learn skills in business, as well as a way for us to connect to our broader community. Our farmers market does accept SNAP and FMNP, and we try to price our products kind of in that sweet spot where we don't want to undercut other farmers, but at the same time we want to offer it affordably to our neighborhood. We in 2015, out of 4,200 pounds of produce sold, we donated 3,500 pounds of it, mostly to the seniors in the building, and we sold 500 pounds of it. In addition to our farm market, we sell to a couple of local restaurants and grocery stores. This year, we're piloting a senior CSA program where 31 seniors so far have participated in receiving a bag of produce every week that they can order in advance. And this was in response to what we saw the community need for, you know, some of the seniors couldn't get down to the community room for mostly issues of not being well or not being able to have the mobility to get down. And some of them, it was a time, you know, they weren't available at the time that we put out vegetables. This has been a really successful way to get vegetables to more seniors in the building that couldn't access them before. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about our impact. As I said earlier, we grew 4,200 pounds of produce last year, most of which was donated. We had 500.5 hours of programming on site. And this is just really to demonstrate the educational effect that having a farm on site can have for an institution. And it can really be used as a tool for advocacy and a tool for just educating your community about the importance of having local food. And 79% of the senior survey respondents, so we had over the winter, reported eating our food at least once last season. So it is really having an impact within the building. Next slide, please. Our main funding is through a collective impact grant from GSK, and we get additional funding through Spruce Foundation and Henrietta Tower Wirtz. Our farmers are mostly grant funded, and Greenup Partners also receives individual donations, but there are really a variety of ways if you wanted to replicate this project that funding could work, and it could include earned income from education programs, earned income from CSAs, or earned income from farmers markets, as well as grants donations, and in-kind. There's a lot of in-kind support from FRP for the project as well. Next slide. So yeah, I just wanted to offer a couple of kind of final thoughts on replicability of the project and takeaways for collaboration. This partnership has worked so well because of kind of a mutual respect between the two organizations and a sense of trust that was developed over years. So I'd say when starting a farm in an institution, it's great to start small and kind of scale up. Like when we started at FRP, we had a smaller, footprint on the building, and as we built partnership and trust, and as both organizations saw kind of how cool the project was, we were able to invest more resources, and so was FRP. It also helped that the two organizations had really a shared mission and goals for the project, which just enables our work to be both more effective and more supported. And then it's important to ask what the community need is and try to really tailor the project to address that. So I think a reason we're able to be so successful is because we really do things in our project directly for our community, and we really try to, custom tailor our programs to the community that we're serving, and it could look totally different at a different institution and in a different community. I will say one thing that's kind of related but not directly related, just the farming methods we use on this site. Obviously our project is pretty small, and a farm at an institution could take like a number of different forms and really be a number of different sizes. Like if the institution has a lot of land, it could be a very large farm. But for us, we try to use very high yield, small space growing to kind of maximize our impact on a small space. So we do grow and raise beds. We grow special varieties that kind of, we do a lot of like baby vegetables or small vegetables that produce more yield per space. And that could look different depending on, again, the individual farm institution partnership. I think we will now move into questions. And thank you guys.
Great,
thank
you
so much. Very much. Oh, sorry, Hannah, I'm just going to say before you get right into the Q&A, thank you to the presenter so much for the both the broader, sharing your broader approach and the finer grained details. Just before the Q&A, I wanted to note the two handouts that you'll find in the control panel that will also be available after the coffee talk, and we'll be sending out a follow-up email with all of these. But there are two handouts that will share some of the same details that you heard, but one of them is another example that's out of New England. So just some other resources that you can access. And now Hannah has been collecting all your questions, and so she'll now moderate the Q&A session. If you have more questions, please add them into the questions box. And if we don't get through all of them, we'll share the unanswered ones with the presenters for their review and response, which will also be emailed out. So thank you so much, Hannah. Over to you.
All right, great. Thank you again, everyone. That's an amazing presentation about awesome projects. We'll start with the last question first, which is, will the slides also be available? And they will. A recording will be made available, and we will get you the slides as well. Moving on to questions for our presenters. The first question is, how have you connected with companies, sorry, this is for Common Market, how have you connected with companies so they can participate in the Workplace Wellness Program?
This is Jillian from the Common Market. Thanks for your question. There's a couple of different ways that we allow that to happen. We love when people reach out to us. That definitely makes it easy. You can email info@CM, as in Common Market, cmfarmshare.org. And that's a great way to get in touch with Sarah Padva, who's our FarmShare Outreach Coordinator. And she's really the best person to talk to about getting more information about our Common Market FarmShare, which is our Farm to Workplace CSA.
Great, thank you. Next question, also for Common Market. Regarding the Food Access Fund, you mentioned that the food was sold at cost. Could you elaborate a little bit?
Hi, this is Margaret at the Common Market. Thanks for the question. So I would just say firstly that as food access is so important to our overall operations and so much of the reasoning for partnering with institutions directly to really broaden that impact and increase food access more broadly, the Food Access Fund is a special, smaller program that we run to directly interact with mostly community and neighborhood-based organizations who are led by and serving low-income people. We have a set of criteria that we have for participating organizations. It is a grant-funded program. We've been pretty successful in always fundraising for that, but it is just a smaller special program that we run. So effectively the grant supports a discount for these organizations purchasing food who are trying to get good food into their communities directly in the hands of low-income people. So the grant supports the difference in the amount. So the community organization will purchase the food from us, so the cost that they're putting forth covers the cost paying the farmer. So it's a pretty amazing direct connection to low-income neighborhoods directly with our farmers, and just the grant helps cover our markup, if that makes sense. It's a really fabulous program. Right now we have 7 organizations participating, and it's definitely something we're looking to grow.
Thank you. Again, for Common Market, one of the issues in farm to institution is food safety and traceability of local food. Does GAP certificate help solve this problem, and how?
This is Jillian from the Common Market. So GAP certification definitely helps with this process, and that's part of the food safety that happens on the farm. And it is something that we now require of all of our farms. We've been working with them for the past several years to kind of gear them up for that, because it's a big process. It involves a lot of extra paperwork and a lot of extra legwork on the part of the farmer. But the farmers who are really interested in working with institutions and scaling their operations themselves are all for it. And so we have kind of helped them through the technical assistance, and in some cases also through financial assistance. So that is definitely one piece of the food safety, issues that we have to deal with. And we also have a lot of food safety standards here that we follow at our warehouse. So we, as I mentioned during the presentation, we are audited by a third party annually by NSF International. And we have actually just we're in the process of increasing our food safety right now to meet the international standards of SQF. And that involves, again, sort of 2 different audits. One is an audit of our program itself and the records that we keep about all of the different things that we have going on here. And then in addition, we have an audit of the facility itself, where the auditor will come and walk around and inspect the facility and make sure that everything we're doing, we're actually doing. So it's pretty involved, and it involves really everybody who works here, from our warehouse to our drivers to even those of us who are on the outreach team and go in and out of the cooler. It's everybody who takes part in keeping track of things. So it's something we take really seriously, and it really is the only way to successfully work with institutions.
Wonderful, thank you. The next question is, handouts show price as a key obstacle. Are institutions willing to pay organic and/or a local premium, and are there data sources that benchmark those prices?
I think this is Jillian again. I think I understand the question as, are institutions planning to or able to pay premium for organic? Is that what the question is? Or local? So yeah. I will say there's a spectrum. There are definitely some institutions who are in a position and willing and able to do so, and there are others that it's not as much of a priority. I mean, organic is just one certification through the USDA, and a lot of our farms have organic operations but are not certified themselves because they can't afford it. So it's kind of a spectrum for sure. So
great, thanks. Next question is for Common Market. The questioner was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how Common Market evaluated existing regional capacity and determined that more physical infrastructure was required. For example, how did you conclude that there wasn't an existing local food hub that just needed a little boost?
This is Margaret at the Common Market. I'll do my best to answer that. Our co-founders, Hailey Johnson and Tatiana Granados, completed a 3-year planning stage before even opening doors here at Common Market. They partnered with other community-based organizations active in the food and ag space around the Philadelphia region, and it became apparent that there was so much good work happening on the ground with, farmers markets, with restaurants doing farm to table, with, different pockets of schools interested in farm to school, and with other community-based organizations like Greener Partners just on the ground doing that community-based work, but really identifying that there was a gap between, what our local farms could be able to do given a distribution that was tailored to suit their needs. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what organizations or programs anywhere in the U.S. support increasing supply of organic and permaculture food for institutions via production quality ag and or conversion from conventional to organic land? And I believe that is a question for either Common Market or Greener Pasture.
This is Nicole from Greener Partners. I'm not familiar necessarily with nationwide organizations, but I do know that most, if not all, states will have state organic associations. Like here in Pennsylvania, it's the Pennsylvania Association for Sustainable Agriculture. I know, in the Northeast, it's the NOFA, the Northeast Organic Farm Association. And those organizations are great strategic partners in transitioning land from conventional to organic. Maybe I'll let some of our other presenters answer if you guys have any additional resources. Yeah, I think that's the best we can come up with right now, but maybe we can brainstorm other additional resources and get them out in the notes after the talk.
Great, absolutely. And if you have anything else to add, or if any of the attendees at the webinar have any to add, just send them our way and we'll include them in the notes afterwards. For the next question, this is for Greener Partners. Many of the gardens have paid staff. What are some tips for finding funding for staffing gardens?
So that is the $3 million question, excuse me. I kind of wish we had that much so we could fund some more staff at some more gardens. I think that, what Greener Partners has tried to do was to find a healthy mix of earned income from CSA, which from our big farm, and that is a huge revenue source for us, both, a regular summer season as well as a winter CSA. We do have some earned income as well from education programs, but that's not extensive. And then both private foundations and just local individuals that we have spent years cultivating their awareness of and interest in the kind of work that we're doing. I wish there were a lot more funding. Again, if anybody else, other thoughts on that, we're happy to brainstorm and share those in the notes.
Thanks. And a question for Margaret. Can you say more about the scaling up for equity concept?
Sure. Yes, I think that one of the reasons why we've been successful at achieving our kind of dual-sided mission, both in supporting small-scale sustainable farmers and helping them to make a profit and earn a living that is fair, while also serving a diverse array of customer types, including low-income people and those suffering from lack of access or places that have affordable food in their communities. We found that it's been really necessary for us to scale our operations and to grow out of our, kind of our heart and our home, Philadelphia, to expand to the region at large. So we really think regionally when we're looking at food systems. We have found that the efficiencies that we can find through scaling our operations allows us to aggregate and work with both smaller neighborhood and community-based organizations and small and medium-sized farms, and it makes it work for both sides. So I think that it could look different in different regions. I don't think that it's a one-size-fits-all in terms of what's the right scale, but I think that Common Market has been really successful in realizing the effects of kind of the economies of scale to a point when it comes to bringing everyone together to make it affordable and profitable on both ends of the value chain.
Great, thanks so much, Margaret. I just wanted to point out quickly a note from David Witzel to, if anyone is interested in continuing the discussion, obviously everyone is welcome to through CFN, but in addition, on October 29th, there is a co-designing our regenerative future unconference in Arlington, VA. He also shared a link to the sign-up form, and we'll include that in the notes after the presentation as well. Thank you so much for answering the questions, and thank you to everyone for submitting questions and also submitting some answers too. That's great. We'll send out all the ones that we didn't have time to touch on today after the presentation, and now I'll pass it back over to Yona for next steps.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Again, to the presenters and to Hannah for moderating questions and for all of those great questions, including the ones that we didn't get to review right now. But I just wanted to mention a few more next steps to follow up with the tip from David. Thank you again for that. Part of our Coffee Talk platform, a major part is to identify ways for people to be connected and engaged following the webinar. And so here are just a few ways for you to dig in deeper around the topic today and to learn more about the Chesapeake Foodshed Network as well. All of the resources and links that are mentioned here will be sent out to everybody, and some of them are actually the handouts that we included today. And then there are a couple of videos. The Common Market Anchor Institution video was sent out with the advertising materials, and then there's also a Greener Partners video that we'll share. Some immediate ways to stay connected and go deeper into some of the issues that were raised today, both around farm to institution and around equity, is our upcoming Twitter chat, what we call the Chesapeake Foodshed Network, our water cooler chat that happens on Twitter and Facebook. Our focus in October is on farm to institution, and we have from October 10th to 14th a space within our Facebook page that will be open for conversation and comments and resources around farm to institution, culminating in a Twitter chat on October 14th from 12:30 to 1:30 Eastern Time. So hope to see you there. That would be great. And then also wanted to mention that the Common Market will be presenting at the upcoming American Association for Sustainability in Higher Education Conference, also known as ASHE, and that's happening in Baltimore this year, middle of October, and so they'll be presenting, focusing specifically about cultivating regional partnerships on campus. Please connect with us on social media and sign up for our CFN email list. It's also a great way to find out broadly about upcoming events, but also specifically about upcoming events related to farm to institution. Just a little, one more plug for our live Twitter chat, our water cooler chat, which is on Facebook and Twitter, coming up middle of October. And wanted to close here with some additional ways to be connected. Thank you, first of all, for all of your interest and for joining us today. And we hope that you might be interested in some of the upcoming coffee talks, some of which are directly related to equity and to farm to institution. So in October, we have the Farm Workers Support Committee speaking about the role of farm workers and labor in sustainable agriculture. In November, we're connecting with the Planning Council around farm to child care. In December, we have somebody from, the National Young Farmers Coalition who will be speaking about facilitating access to land for the next generation of farmers. So we hope to see you there or at some of our upcoming network development series events, which are also happening through the fall and into the spring. For example, later this month, we have a great event with June Hawley, who's the author of the Network Weaver Handbook, talking about tools and practices for highly effective networks. Food System Council and Network Gathering in Virginia, and then one final plug for our Twitter chat, and then upcoming events later in the fall and the spring. So thank you so much for joining us today, and in particular to the presenters from the Common Market and Greener Partners who were able to share their experience and their expertise. We hope to engage with all of you further. If you want to serve as a resource expert for future Coffee Talk, please be in touch. Contact information is at the top of the slide. And please visit our website, chesapeakefoodshed.net, for more information and to register for upcoming events. We hope you can join us. Have a great day. Thank you so much.